Brett Dawson from Sellout Crowd at Paycom Center, where the Thunder is a 139-77 winner against the Portland Trailblazers. That's the actual score, 139-77, a 62-point win. That's a Thunder franchise record. That's a top 5 all-time margin of victory in the NBA. The Thunder set all kinds of records. Tied a franchise record with 41 assists, had a season high with 59 rebounds. Huge game for OKC. Reminiscent a little bit of the 73-point loss the Thunder took a couple of years ago to the Memphis Grizzlies. That game came up quite a lot tonight in some interesting ways, but not a whole lot of interesting things to say about the game itself. The second complete rout of the Blazers this season, both of them coming on the second night of back-to-backs. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 31 points in 21 minutes. Josh Giddey played 22 minutes, got a triple-double. Lots of guys had big numbers. Shai talked after the game about the fact that the Thunder didn't really like the way it had played off a back-to-back last week. They had the big win against Boston, then they go on the road and lose to an inferior Atlanta team, a team that it would normally beat under different circumstances, but just came out a little flat. Understandable with the travel, but the Thunder kind of wanted to respond to that, put the game away, and really did that tonight. Came out with a lot of energy early, had that energy again to start the third quarter and put the game away pretty easily early in that third quarter. Doubled up the Blazers at one point. Wasn't going to be much of a chance for Portland to make any kind of run after that. And the Thunder just kind of kept the pedal to the metal. Even the fourth quarter, when nobody played a lot of real rotation players, it was 21-21. So the Thunder hung around as the Blazers, probably some motivated guys on that Blazers team at the end. Thunder still really took care of business with the reserves in a pretty ugly fourth quarter, but never really let the game get away from them. 62 was the biggest lead. It's also the lead that the Thunder ended with. I mentioned that 73-point loss to Memphis. Mark Daigneault talked about it a little bit, talked about the perspective of going from one extreme to the other. He was the coach of the most lopsided loss in Thunder history and now the biggest blowout win in Thunder history. And what he talked about was the value of that 73-point game, the scars, he said, that it gave the team in a good way. And I thought one of the most interesting things that's come out of the game, that's come out of any game after in a post-game interview, Daigneault was asked about the idea of chasing that number, of getting over 73, the NBA record for the most lopsided loss. And he said that didn't cross his mind, and he said that's our record, which I thought was really interesting. I think the Thunder views that as a really formative game for them, a thing they want to point to and talk about how they've come so far from. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander talked about not playing in that game, and he said, unfortunately, and he kind of came across like he was saying that in two ways. Like, unfortunately, he didn't play, so maybe they wouldn't have lost by so much if he had. But also unfortunate that he didn't play and didn't share that experience with the team. But he did share what he called the embarrassment, the feelings after the game, and talked about how the Thunder has used that game as motivation, has talked about never wanting to feel that feeling again. And I think that has showed in how competitive this team has been over the course of this season. This team that really feels like it's among the NBA's best. You can tell they're not going to say that, but you can see the confidence. You can see the sort of battle scars Mark Daigneault has talked about. This team plays beyond its years, plays like a much more mature team than it actually is. Chauncey Billups called it an elite team tonight. And it was hard to argue this evening, the way they played tonight. It gets much tougher on Saturday, an interesting game as the Orlando Magic come to town. That's a much improved Orlando team, kind of on a track not dissimilar to the Thunders. They bring in Paolo Banchero, the number 1 pick in the NBA draft the year that Chet Holmgren was the 2nd pick. And also Jalen Suggs, Chet's old high school teammate, is on the team. So a lot of interesting connections for Chet and a real good challenge for the Thunder. The Magic will be on the second night of a back-to-back. Thunder get a little rest, but it's pretty brief. They'll take a day off, and then they're going to come back and play on Saturday, and then hit the road again for another long road trip. So this is an important one to just put away. An inferior Blazers team, they did that by a franchise record-setting margin. We'll have much more about this game and the ones to come, certainly Saturdays, here on my YouTube page and at selloutcrowd.com, so check that out.